Welcome to the Schwowin's Nest. My name is Sandra and I'm so glad you're here. I've got some really fun fall DIYs with wood, so let's get started. Today I'm working at my cottage and I've got my miter saw out here. I'm going to be doing lots of wood cuts. I am doing some little sticks. So I wanted to get some wood rounds and I'm going to be just using different sizes, different styles of wood. I think this is a basswood, and the one that you can see further on, that might be a birch, I think, or it might be even a yellow birch. So I'm going to be cutting out these little discs, and this is going to create a really fun pumpkin craft. Now, if you don't have a saw like this or you don't have wood sticks like this, you can get these kinds of discs at dollar stores, at craft stores, and I know they have them on Amazon as well. I love how all the little pieces of wood have knots or they have little holes like that piece. They just look so unique. Then I found this one little piece that was sort of ripped in half, and that's going to be my pumpkin stem. Now I'm just going to take all of these little pieces, and I did some skinnier branches as well, so I would be able to fit in the little holes, and I'm just going to make the shape of a pumpkin. This isn't rocket science, but it is a little bit of a puzzle, so take your time and just figure out where you want all of your wood pieces to be. I'm going to be using hot glue to glue them onto this little piece of plywood. I think it's about a 1/4 inch. It was just a scrap that I had. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do to the rest of it. I left all the wood pieces where they were and simply picked them up, put some hot glue on the bottom, and then dropped them back down where they belonged. Then I just did all of those little tiny pieces at the end. I wanted to make sure that I had all the big pieces down first and then just did some fill-ins. I took my piece back outside and I've got it clamped down onto my picnic table. I'm taking a drill with a pretty big drill bit, and I am just going to go around all of the edges of the pumpkin. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to be able to use my jigsaw, but I have to use the jigsaw on the back side of it because the jigsaw blades, they have a guard around it and I can't get close enough on this side. So I had to think of a workaround. So using the drill and just putting a hole in, like say every 1/2 inch or so, giving the shape of the pumpkin itself will allow me to then use the jigsaw on the back of it and follow the outline. Here you can see all of my drill holes, and this will allow me to cut this backer off. Now, if you're going to be doing this project, I would suggest doing it a little bit differently. Do the pumpkin shape first. Cut out your pumpkin shape the way you want it to be, and then let the wood pieces hang off the edge of the backer. That would probably be easier and less time consuming than the way I'm doing it here. So, as they say, do as I say and not as I do. If you'd like to start woodworking, but you're afraid of all the power tools, then grab yourself a jigsaw. They're not that expensive, and most local hardware stores will carry them as well as online. This is how I started out. I grabbed a jigsaw and I used different types of wood materials and just got myself comfortable with cutting. Grab yourself a couple of really good clamps too, like the ones I have here, and all you need is a table, and then you've got a secure way to start practicing wood cutting. Next, I just grabbed my palm sander, which is another great beginner tool to use, either a mouse sander or a palm sander like this. And I'm just going to be taking down all of the rough edges, making it nice and smooth. And then this project is done.
Our hearts beat to the city streets. We began to feel the fire. We rise like tall buildings as the chemicals they take us higher. The night's young and it's
This next project is using a piece of 1-inch pine. I cut this from a larger piece and I'm just going to be hand drawing a pumpkin. And then I'm going to grab my trusty jigsaw one more time and cut it out. If you're not comfortable hand drawing your pumpkin, you can definitely print something off and then just trace around it. I've got my favorite clamps holding this down on a table, and now I'm just grabbing my jigsaw and I'm going to let it do all the work. You don't have to push very hard, you just have to guide it along. These are my favorite clamps to use. I love them. They come in a whole bunch of different sizes at your local hardware store. There's no need to go anywhere else. Check for them when they're on sale, and then you can grab 2 or 3 in a few different sizes. One thing I love about using a jigsaw is you can start and stop your cuts as often as you need to. It's also easier to do it that way. So I'm starting here with the stem at the top. I'm going to stop when I get to the pumpkin. And then I'm going to come in from the other end and meet up with that first cut. And that just makes it so much easier to get the shapes that you want. Using the same technique, I also cut out an acorn shape. And now I'm going to be adding some texture to the top of the acorn, so the acorn cap. And I'm just using a Phillips screwdriver and a hammer, and I'm just making some little indentions into the top just to give it some texture so you know that that is the cap of the acorn. Now I'm using a flathead or a slot screwdriver to just score some lines from the one side to the other, which will again outline where the cap is. This would probably be much easier to do if I had my little carving set from the Dollar Tree, but those are at home, so I just had to make do with what I had on hand. For the pumpkin, I'm using the slot screwdriver again and just making some scoring lines to make the pumpkin look like it has the ribs in it. And these turned out really fun, and I love how the texture of them is. They're kind of rough and rustic and natural because that's kind of what you see in real life anyway. Again, I'm grabbing my palm sander and I'm going to give the edges and all of the top a little bit of a sanding just to clean it up. I'm using this mushroom color on the bottom of the acorn. It's a cross between a gray and a beige. It's just a latex paint that I used in my home. I do not have the specific colors and who it was made by anymore, but I do have a few similar paints listed in my Amazon store, and that's what I've searched out for you guys. So if you're interested in getting a color similar to this, then by all means head on over to my store. If you have a paint color in mind that you think would match this pretty well, let me know down in the comments because I get a lot of questions about where to get this particular color of paint. I like it because it's a neutral color, but it's not white and it's not beige. It's got a really neat tone to it, and it can be still used as a neutral shade. To make the pumpkin look a little different, I went back to my signature white. This is just, again, a latex paint. I buy this off the shelf at Walmart, and sometimes I add some talc to it to make it a little bit more opaque, like a chalk paint, but most of the time I just use it as is right out of the can. Moving back to the acorn, I'm just going to use a paper towel and some antiquing wax, and I'm going to rub it onto the top portion. Once everything was dry, I just took a brush and dipped it in the antiquing wax, and I'm just going to do some distressing around the edges a little bit. And then I'm going to grab a smaller brush and go into those little areas that I carved out and just make it look a little bit more dimensional. After this part, I ended up using the small brush and going a little bit around the edges of the pumpkin and the acorn as well with a smaller brush and just giving it a little bit of shading. I think they turned out really good. I've seen someone on Instagram doing this type of shading around all of her projects, and I just love the way it looks. So I might be incorporating this into a little bit more of my crafts. Let me know what you think of this type of shading and if you like it. While I was cutting pieces of wood at my miter saw, I did a few extra so I could use them as feet for the pumpkin and acorn. So I decided to make risers out of them, and I think they are absolutely beautiful. Since both of these are raw wood, hot glue works fine and creates a permanent bond. I'm going to put 4 feet on the pumpkin and 3 on the acorn. Then once that's completed, I will be finishing up the backs of these. I'm going to paint the pumpkin white, and then I'll paint the acorn in its corresponding colors. Then I'll give it a spray of sealer, and they're all set to go. I love how these turned out. You'll have to let me know what you think. Thanks so much for spending some of your time with me today. I truly appreciate it. If you like these projects, make sure you check out all of my other fall projects too. I'll leave a link here to my playlist. Make sure you do all the things. Subscribe, hit the like button, and don't forget the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything else I have to share. Bye for now.